I think this video is going to be a bit of a cry for help, honestly. I want to talk about this artistic project I've been working on for a little while now. Depending on how you look at it, I guess I've been working on something for between 4 months and 2 years at this point, and I'm kind of wrestling with where to go from here and what I'm doing, and so I kind of want to talk about it. Before I get into these triangle paintings that I've been doing, I think it's probably good to flashback to the winter of 2023, about 2 years ago now. For various reasons, I wanted to learn how to make art. I heard somewhere someone say that any artistic process is in some sense a technical skill, whether you play the violin or dance or paint or sculpt or whatever. Those are all just technical skills, and anybody can learn how to do a technical skill. The thing that makes an artist is the desire to express your voice in some way. And that idea really resonated with me. So I decided that I would just, spend the time and the focus to learn the skill of making art. And so I went out, I got this basic watercolor set. Cost me about $100. It only had half the paints in here to start, and I've filled up the rest. It's got these mixing pools as well. This was maybe the best purchase I've ever made in my entire life. I love this object so much. It folds up really nicely, so you can take it with you when you travel. You can fit a couple paintbrushes in here, and I've used this thing basically every single day for the last 2 years. And at the start of 2023, the thing that I did was I had my paint set, and I went on YouTube and I was like looking at tutorials, just learning how to paint basic stuff. And I was messing around with this tutorial teaching me how to paint leaves, which is super basic. You just take a brush and you dip it in some green paint, and then you press and hold and sort of lift your brush in a way that creates the wide part of the leaf, and then the tip. Just press and hold and drag. And I on some scrap pieces of paper, I was just practicing this, and then eventually I painted I painted these sort of leaves just as practice, but they were kind of symmetrical, and so on a bit of a whim, I decided to paint the blossom of a rose at the top of the painting, draw a little line down the middle, and turn it into a flower. And I finished this. I put my initials on the bottom, and honestly, this is awful. There's just endless problems with it. The leaves don't match up. There's sort of weird blotchy things going on with the blossom. The sort of way that the blossom is expressed is weird. It's terrible. And I remember sitting at home just staring at this painting and trying to figure out where I went wrong. like how come the thing in my head hadn't at all translated into what I saw on the page. And I I watched some more tutorials and I looked at pictures, and I just remember staring at this thing and trying to figure out what happened. And after a bit of practice, I took another shot at it. And this is also extremely bad. The leaves and the blossom are both blotchy. I'm having trouble controlling the paint in the water, and the blossom doesn't look anything like a rose really. But I had this pad of watercolor paper, and so I figured I'd just keep going with it. And so the next day I did another one and another one, and I ended up doing the same rose every day for 9 consecutive days. And the end result was pretty transformative for me, I guess. It was the sort of thing that kind of in some ways fueled everything that came after it, because I laying all of these out, I could see my progress. I don't think this is by any means a perfect painting. I've come a long way since then, and I can see all sorts of flaws in it. But what I can also see is how far I've come just by painting the same thing every day for 9 days. This is not revolutionary, of course. We all know that if we practice something, we get better at it. But with painting, especially if you stick with it, you can just lay all of these out and see how far you've come. And for me, anyway, that's really motivating, and kind of became the backbone of my artistic process. I adopted this mentality where every single day I was going to paint something, and I painted a lot of flowers. There's flowers in a bushel. There's just little lilies. The, silhouettes of flowers, just on and on and on. But I painted other things. I paint the city sometimes, and I really have a thing for painting Toronto's highways. There's another painting of the highway on the wall behind me, actually. A couple of them there, I think. And just sort of rural landscapes and all sorts of things. Every single day, I paint something, and most days, I what I do is I pick an idea and I stick with it for like a week or a month or however long. I just have a concept in my head, and I try to paint it, and then I figure out what I don't like about that. I look at it, I critique myself, and then the next day I sit down and I try to learn from my mistakes and paint it again the next day. And that process, that repetition, really has been motivating, and I've come, I think, a long way in 2 years. I'm still very I'm not very good at any of this, but I'm a lot better than I was in the beginning of 2023. Part of what I love with this process is that, when you just do the same thing over and over and over again, it takes on a bit of a life of its own. The things you fixate on, the things that are interesting and sort of are the spark for creativity, really sort of grow and evolve over time. I had another process over um, early September of this year where I went to a cottage with some friends, and I was like really transfixed with the texture of the water on the lake, and I was trying to sort of capture just that, the way the light and the colors exist when there's just like little ripples and stuff. Anyway, I tried messing around with this, and this is a total failure. But then I tried to do this thing with like ovals, just overlapping ovals, giving a sense of color. And I think this works better. And then, I worked that idea for a while. And, some of them are sort of stronger colors and different compositions. And then I had this idea of doing like the way the lake looks at dawn when the sort of, you know, colors of a sunrise, but reflected on a lake. And I did a couple of those. And then ultimately I wound up with this idea, which is, approaching a traditional landscape, but using that motif of ovals just expressing the texture of the water. I find it really enjoyable, and there's something really rewarding about just, working an idea over and over and over again, and seeing where the creativity takes you. For the most part, in the last 2 years, all of these paintings just kind of pile up. Like these, the ones on the table here are mostly just things I've done in the last, 6 months or so. And I have like 600 or 700 paintings just sitting in a box in my closet, and they just kind of pile up. I don't love the idea of selling them. I don't know what to charge for them, and a lot of them I feel like they aren't very good. I don't, I don't love the idea of selling them. Some of them I give away to friends. Some of them I sort of offer people who say they like them. Offer a little trade or something, if they give me something that they made, or whatever. But for the most part, they just go in a box, and the box goes in my closet, and the paintings are just kind of piling up in there while I try to learn. And that kind of started to change about 4 months ago, I guess. In the fall of this year, anyways. In late September, early October, sometime, it was the beginning of fall, and I wanted to paint a maple leaf. I think I'd seen something on TikTok, or something, just a tutorial, and I liked the idea of, just like a nice autumnal maple leaf. So I tried, painting one, and it turned out okay. And so I did my usual thing where I just kind of stuck with it, and painted, a whole bunch of maple leaves. I started putting this indigo background on it, and then, messing with the texture and the size, and, this one's a little bit weird. And then I did one with sort of other sitting on a bed of leaves, and uh, after a week and a half, I feel like I kind of got to the end of, uh, that. I don't know how much there was to do there, but one of the things I was struggling with this maple leaf was the actual shape of the leaf. If you look at some of these, it doesn't look exactly like the shape of a maple leaf should. And I was doing pencil sketches before I started putting down paint, but I was never sort of nailing it just right. And I guess I could have practiced more and really gotten that part right. But I had this idea that maybe instead of doing a literal, representational maple leaf, I could do something that was sort of more, um, abstract. And so I had this idea to make the shape of a maple leaf out of triangles, and then just, use autumnal colors and stuff to express the idea of a nice maple leaf, but using triangles. The Canadian government's done this like a billion times with different logos and stuff, but whatever. Anyway, I tried it, and almost immediately this thing went off the rails for me. You can sort of see here the maple leaf shape that I was going for, but I think when I did this red triangle, I sort of screwed up, and it got away from me. And so what I decided to do was basically just fill the whole page with triangles, just in different colors, and see what that would look like. And I think it looks okay. So, I basically, I had this, and I just decided to do it again. Just yellows and reds and a little bit of brown and indigo for contrast. And I was sort of playing with this, and you can see in here different things that I'm playing with, different ideas. On this one, there's like a line running through it, and sort of trying to play with the composition and, focal points. There's a little bit of a central focal point there. And then I built on that by like really emphasizing a focal point in all of these lines, and the color converging at the middle. And then I did that sort of the reverse colors, the blues in the middle. This one, similar. I did a whole bunch of these. And again, I'm doing one painting a day and just sort of figuring things out and practicing. This one's, who doesn't like a rainbow? Different with the sort of more saturated colors at the edge, and um, you know, just playing with these ideas. Some of them I did bigger ones. I did, this really colorful one. You know, really messing around with this idea in various ways. Anyway, while I was doing this whole triangle thing, another thing about the way I do these paintings is I tend to post pretty much everything on social media. The failures, the successes, just every day when I finish my painting, I take a picture of it and I post it on, used to be Twitter, now it's Blue Sky and Instagram, stuff like that. And I like the feedback, and I like the fact that I'm not hiding. I'm not waiting for it to be good. I'm just putting it out there and, you know, showing my fumbling process. And anyway, as I was doing some of these big paintings, I said on Twitter that I think this would look good as something really big. And if anyone who was interested in this, hit me up. I would love to paint something like this. And I didn't really expect anything to come out of it, but a guy reached out to me and said that he liked the thing I was working on, and if I wanted to, he would buy a bigger painting from me. And that was cool. And we went back and forth a little bit and settled on a price and talked a little bit about the colors and the composition and stuff. And then I got to work. And I went to the art store and I bought 3 large sheets of watercolor paper. I think they're 22 inches by 30 inches. And I bought 3 because, frankly, I thought I was going to screw up, and I wanted, the chance for a do-over if I messed something up in the process. And I take this thing down and I started just with red triangles in the middle, and slowly over probably a week and a half, uh, it um, it came together with red in the middle, fading out to blue at the edges, and a few sort of hard white lines where I specifically preserved just the color of the paper underneath, and sort of very much a focal point, but with no two triangles uh, the same color, basically. In a lot of ways, the thing that watercolor lends itself to is these big washes of color where you mix together what's called wet on wet, where like with something like this, you just cover the whole page with water and then you start dropping in your colors, and it all sort of blends in these lovely, soft, smooth textures, something like this or whatever. Anyway, um, with the triangles, it's kind of the opposite, where each individual triangle is you're using a teeny tiny brush and just doing painstaking fine work to get to sharp edges and keep all of the gaps in between the triangles the same. So it takes a long time, basically, and it's a lot of very fine detail work. But the thing that these big triangle paintings benefit from is that you can just sort of squeeze out some paint onto a dinner plate like this, and then have pools of water in the middle and just be grabbing a little bit of red from over here or a little bit of brown from over here and mixing on the fly, so that no two triangles are the same color, and you can just be sort of changing the color subtly by bringing different bits of paint into your mixing pool. And I think in some ways it makes for an interesting an interesting final result, because no two triangles are the same color, no two triangles are the same texture. Some of them are more saturated with paint. Some paints do what's called granulation, where they sort of have a bit of a, I guess, a rougher texture, granulated texture. And it's the sort of thing that really, looking at it, I think is sort of there's a lot of detail and stuff to focus in on. Anyway, I finished this big red and purple and blue painting, and I was pretty happy with the final result. And I delivered it to the guy. Uh, it, he was happy with it, I think. And honestly, everything about this, email a random artist and tell them you want to buy something. This guy, super cool. I haven't talked to him about this video or anything, so I'm not revealing his name or how much he paid or anything like that. But love it, super cool. I am so happy he reached out to me. But in offering to paint something like this and in accepting this project, I kind of inadvertently broke with my whole habit of the last 2 years. And it's sort of thrown me into like an emotional crisis because, like, first of all, I sold this painting to him for money, which is not something I've ever really done before. For a few of my sort of larger esoteric projects, I've I've accepted donations and I've said, hey, if you give me $50 to contribute to this thing, I want to do this weird graffiti project or whatever, then I will, say thank you by putting a couple paintings in the mail. But that's always been like, give me money and I'll send you something nice, not like buy this specific painting, which maybe is only a distinction that matters to me, but it matters to me. So anyway, with this one, I had accepted a commission and I had painted something and sold it. And that was a departure for me. And then the other departure for me was the fact that I hadn't painted a painting every single day because this big thing took days and days and days to complete. But it was rewarding and I was happy with it. So, don't think too much about it, I guess. But then I also had bought 3 sheets of paper because I was worried I was going to screw up. So I had these 2 other sheets of paper that I didn't know what to do with. And so then it was, I guess, the end of October. I think it was like right around Halloween. And I was walking through the park and I saw this tree that has this sort of crack running up it, but it's like a spiral, like the crack in the tree sort of twists around and all of the bark twists around it. And it's got this like really interesting spiral shape to it, which incidentally, this is another thing that I love about the art process that I experience because I see the world in a different way. I see a weird tree in the park and I'm like, that's an idea. That's something I could paint. And I see things everywhere in the world that I just want to paint and capture and all of this has changed the way I relate to art. It's changed the way I relate to the world. It's really clearly consumed my life. And so anyway, it was the end of October. It was around the time of my brother's birthday. I decided to paint something that was like in a spiral motif, but still using the triangles. And, it was getting dark and cold and gray. So I wanted something joyful and colorful. So I did this thing in reds and oranges and yellows, sort of a spiral shape, kind of making it up on the fly, but I had an idea in my head, I guess. And yada, yada, yada. I spent like another week and a half on this thing, and I think it turned out really well. I think it's beautiful, and I finished it just after the U.S. election. The morning after the U.S. election, I was sitting here, I was drinking my coffee and painting triangles and finished the last little bit of this. So here I am painting, because painting these little triangles is soothing and it's a better way to spend my morning while drinking my coffee instead of just catastrophizing. The election sort of threw me into a bit of a spiral because, like, the world's going to hell in a handbasket and everything, and here I am sitting and I'm just painting, colorful triangles. and is all of this like a waste of time, and just like, is all of this frivolous basically? And so I still had this one sheet of paper and I wanted to do something with it. And I'd been filming this whole process. I'd been thinking about making a video like this at some point, talking about creative process and stuff. So, I went back to the drawing board in some ways, and, maybe I would do something radically different. I had this idea similar to the spirals. I wanted to do like maybe concentric circles. Like, I thought that would be interesting. Something about the like curving lines of the spiral, but made out of, straight line triangles, I thought was like visually compelling. And anyway, so I started doing these water drop paintings where just like a droplet of water and then the ripples spiraling outwards. And I spent a while working on these, just some of them with the droplet and some of them just ripples in the water. And like I was different sort of stylistic choices. I did one that was like in a different color palette, and just all sorts of these things, um, just sort of trying to play with an idea here. And some of them I think turned out okay, but the end result thing I was ultimately working towards was that I wanted to do something where it was like triangles but making up the shapes of concentric circles in water droplets. And I tried a couple of those, and I tried one where I was layering the triangles on top of each other. And honestly, I feel like none of these really worked. They weren't exactly what I wanted. And at this point, Donald Trump's going to be president. It's November. I'm depressed. I'm just sort of struggling. I around this time I caught COVID. November was a really great month for James, and so I didn't know what I wanted to do. This blank piece of paper leaning against the wall was like just staring at me and judging me. And I wound up just going through a whole phase where all I was doing was like dots. I think this was the first one again with like ripples, and sort of doing something in that motif. And I did, you know, spirals and all sorts of things. And then I just like, I don't think you're going to be able to sort of pick up all the fine detail on the camera, but just all of these different paintings in sort of a pointillist style. Um, some of them, just sort of branching things. Some of them just filling the page. A lot of this was just like COVID, and like all I felt like I could do at that point was just paint dots. But I did one that was a triangle, bit of an Illuminati thing going on there. And anyway, I messed around with this for like, I guess like a week and a half, 2 weeks, one of these a day. And it I just felt totally lost. But eventually, the thing that happened was that I got the spiral, the red and yellow spiral painting back from the framing shop, and I brought it home, and I was like, you know what, that's actually really good. Like I think I kind of nailed it with this one. And maybe I'm just like running madly off in the wrong direction. So I decided to go back to the triangles. And I was thinking about that tree again, and I did this one that was like a spiral thing, but in green and brown because of the trees. And this is okay. And I was messing around, just sort of seeing how to combine green and brown and stuff. And here's another sort of spiral one. But then I just started doing these like um different shapes, and sort of like looping brown chains of triangles, and like again just sort of messing around, and the next day sitting down and doing something new. Um and then I kind of said screw it, I just gotta, I can't keep staring at this blank piece of paper against the wall. And so I guess that now brings us to this guy. which is the result of another probably 2 weeks of painting. And what I did here was I started by painting these chains of triangles, the brown triangles. This is a color called burnt sienna that I like. It's sort of a very nice, rich reddish brown. And then these different sections, every triangle is a different color, and I'm mixing various different paints to get these colors. But there's sort of, this up here is predominantly a color called sap green, and then these ones here, this is like phthalo turquoise and phthalo green, sort of blue shade. And then up here I've got jadeite genuine, and that's jadeite genuine down here too. And then I mixed it all. I used a fair bit of a color called hooker's green, which is named after a 19th century painter named William Hooker. So that's all that is. But mixing that in with the jadeite or with the sap green, and just getting all of these different colors. And yeah, so the first painting was this guy who emailed me from Twitter, and I sold it to him. And then the second painting was a birthday gift from my brother. And then this third one, I did it, and it doesn't have a home, and it's just been sitting in my apartment, and it's too big to go into the box that goes in the closet where I put all of my other paintings, and I don't know what to do with it. And I don't, so like part of this video is just incoherent ramblings of a madman, but I guess the idea is just putting it out there that if someone finds this compelling, then I would love you to have it. If you would like to buy this painting, it's available, and I guess I'm selling paintings now. I'll tell you a little bit about it. Like the idea here was like there's these chains of brown triangles that run through it, and then each of these sections is sort of a different dominant color. And I guess the inspiration, the thing I was thinking about while I was painting it was that it's the way that the bits of it fit together, the chains of brown triangles and stuff, it doesn't, it defies categorization, sort of like there's no obvious rules or order to it, and it's sort of supposed to be just like a riot of color, like foliage, like it's like a jungle, or something lush and just like rich, overwhelming, like exuberant foliage. And on one level it's very organic and exciting, and then you look closer and it's made up of these sort of very precise sharp edged triangles fitting together into this sort of stained glass mosaic pattern, whatever you would call it. And then you look even closer, and it's riddled with like little errors, just triangles that have like a slightly bent corner, or like little lines that aren't completely straight, or things like that. And it's clear to you that it was done freehand, that it was not using masking tape or a computer or anything. This is just like one guy sitting over the painting, painting one triangle at a time. And I I think it looks good. I don't know what to do with it. I would like you to have it if you would like to buy it, or if you would like to make me an offer that's not money. If you want to trade something for it, I would love to hear about that. My email is in the description of this video, and I yeah, that's part of what I'm talking about. But there's then this other thing that I sort of, if you spend like, I at this point I've probably spent like 100 hours just painting triangles, and between the little ones and the big ones, and I'm still painting triangles. I'm kind of obsessed with, like, there's more triangle paintings here that are just done since I finished this big green one. Just like I, there's another one there. These things are kind of taking over my life. And um, I guess when I started this all 2 years ago with the roses, which are under here somewhere now, the thought process was that like I just wanted to learn. And they didn't need to be good, and I certainly didn't need to sell them or anything. Some of them I could give away, and some of them I would trade with friends or whatever. But I just like the only goal was learning. And somewhere along the way this fall, like I'm trying to do something, and I don't know what that something is. I've been making paintings for 2 years, and I don't know what I'm doing anymore. I want to keep doing it, but like I don't know what the goal is. I don't know what I'm trying to accomplish, or um, I don't want them to just keep piling up in my apartment. Like the box that is in my closet, like it's overflowing. I can't fit all these paintings in there, and I don't know. Like I may have to set up a shop and sell some of these paintings on the internet and see if anyone wants to buy them. I don't love that idea for a bunch of reasons, but I think I do want my paintings to like get out in the world, and people who like them to have them. And I don't want to just give them away for nothing. Like I want to give them to people who will value them in some ways. And just in our society, the way you do that is by selling things. Like that's how you assign value to capitalism. But yeah, so um, I think the thing I'm sort of struggling with in all of this is, first of all, someone please take this painting off of my hands. I would like you to have it. But also, I think all of the stuff I'm feeling and working through right now is like not original at all. I suspect everything that I'm feeling, like some art student or another, maybe most people who do art have had feelings like this in one way or another. And I think the thing I'm looking for is connecting with other artists and talking to people about where to go from here. Like I want to keep making stuff. I don't know what I want, but I know I like doing this kind of, and just connecting with other people who have been on this journey and have thought about it and know what to do or how to think about it or what books to read. um I think I would appreciate that. So like I said, that's what I'm asking. This video is a cry for help. Please help me. And if you like what you see and you would like a triangle painting, uh, email me. I've got a lot of them, and if you would like one, let's talk.